Okay, well, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be painting a simple pansy in water mixable oil. So first of all, I'll have my reference photo for everyone who's on my Patreon channel, and also I'm going to be starting to do ad-free for my Patreon members only. So I'm going to start off with a wash. So I'm going to use some of this ultramarine blue and a little bit of this burnt sienna. Also going to add in a little bit of this quick dry medium because it does help spread the paint. Also, it keeps the paint helps it dry faster. That's what I meant to say as well. Being that it is called the quick dry medium, but some of these mediums don't do what they say they're going to do. This one does work, but it also helps spread the paint around too. So I add a little bit of that in there. So ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, or if you're using regular oil, just use a little transparent red oxide. It's a nicer color, but we don't have that in the water mixable oil. So you could also use a tiny bit of water to spread the paint. I'll just show you what that does. You don't want to add too much water because then it starts to actually break down the paint. We don't want that either, so you kind of have to find a balance. So there we go, we got enough paint on there. You can even throw in a little bit of the purples here and there and some green, just to mix it up. Then I get my Viva paper towel, and I'm just gonna kind of wipe that off. Perfecto. Okay, so I'm just now gonna go in there and I'm just gonna paint 2 of these little pansies, and then the rest of it will be kind of abstract. So keeping it simple, I'm going to use some of this. Actually, before I go into the yellow, I'm going to add a little more cadmium yellow medium here. And I never know what I'm going to paint until I kind of get painting, so I kind of have to figure out my colors. I was going to paint another bird, and I thought we haven't done a flower in a while, so I'm going to switch it up a bit. So I'm just going to wipe off where those pansies are going. This is actually a very traditional way to paint, and you'll see it in painters like Richard Schmid or Daniel Keyes will start off their paintings with a thin layer, and then wipe off some of their paint. I learned from Daniel Keyes for a while. He's one of my favorite painters. You can look him up. He's incredible. So as you can see, I've got 2. The rest is going to be more like in the distance, sort of like little blotches of color. So you never want to start off like with a bright yellow. You want to build up to your main highlight, your main color. So I'm going to start off by adding a little of that burnt sienna to the cad yellow medium, and I'm just going to go in and try to do as few strokes as I can. Keeps the painting a lot fresher if you can manage not to overkill it on the brush strokes. So this brush is a little big for this, but at the same time I don't mind because it'll keep the painting looser. Okay, so you can see the yellow shapes are in. Not going to do any of the background shapes because that's going to be a whole different kind of story. So I can go in now and get a little bit of that shadow. It's kind of an orangey color, but I'm going to start by just adding a little burnt sienna. And I'm using the brush just to kind of blend as I put the stroke in. And I can take it up and a little bit darker, but for now I'm going to leave that. There is a little bit of green in the center. I'll add a little, actually a little burnt sienna to that mix so it's not just so bright. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to leave that for now. And actually I could just take a little bit of that and bring it into the just so it's not so, the edges aren't so strong. Okay, next I want to get that purple in there. So I think I will, well, I'll try using this large brush to keep going, but we'll see. Maybe I will go for a smaller. So I'm mixing in some cobalt blue, and the other color I've got here is just like a quinacridone violet. And all these colors are mainly cobalt. Cobra paint. Sorry, cobalt. I was thinking cobalt blue. And same deal, I want to put in those brush strokes super loose. And like that. I might go with a little more blue in the next one. And I'm trying to keep this really simple, so you'll notice I'm not mixing up the mid-tone color and putting it down. I'm starting with a dark color so that we can just add the highlights. Really nice and easy, really simple and loose. So I know you're probably saying that works for me, keeping it simple. Okay, now I'll put a few little bits of that in the background, so you'll see why later. Okay, so next we want to get in some of the greens, but before we do that I gotta add a little more work to the flower itself. So I think, well, we'll see how far I can go with this brush. I'll keep going. If it gets too difficult or I'm not making the marks I want, I will switch. But the bigger the brush you use, I know it's harder, but it actually does help you loosen up. So I'm trying to be bold myself so that you can follow along. I'm kind of making these marks really randomly so that we continue on to kind of create more of an energy of this flower, how it's just radiating all these beautiful colors. And I don't really, not worry too much about getting it perfect. I'm looking at my reference photo and just sort of picking out those highlights. The edge of that one's just catching some of the light, so I'm just kind of going up the edge with some of that brighter yellow. Alright, so far I don't mind how it's turning out. I just gotta now go and add a little bit more to the petal that's got that bluey. It's a real kind of magenta slash there's lots of blue in there. So I'll mix up a couple colors. I'll use this pink in some of that mix because where the light is hitting it, you can see the pink. So I'm going to put that in first. So I'm using the edge of my brush and I'm dragging in some of that color just like the way I would normally. Now I'm going to pick up some of that blue. Where it's in the shadow, there's kind of this blue. All right. And again, I'm going to put a few notes of that in the background. Okay, and now I'm just going to look at kind of the edges and if there's anything from the photo I'm missing. So I'll take a little bit of this yellow and I'm just going to drag this down a little. Okay, so now I've got this really dark blacky green color. It's a color I can't even tell you what it is because let me see if I can find it. It's I don't know, but it's maybe you could tell me in the comments how to say it. Oh, there it is. It is Paraline green black. So whatever Paraline is, my painting scientists out there can tell me and let me know. I'm going to use that because it's a beautiful color. Whatever's in it, it's got like a dark blacky bluey color in it and I really like it, so that's why it's going in. And I'm trying to keep this loose, so I'm really not too concerned so much about the photo as more I'm looking at how these colors can be really can make them kind of pop from the back of this board. So now you're seeing the yellow kind of pop out, which I really love. And I'm trying to keep my brush strokes really abstract and loose so that the thing doesn't get, you know, hyper realistic. My focus is the pansy, not so much that it's a pansy garden. It's more like a pansy portrait, I would say. So even if I started out thinking I was going to make kind of more of a realistic garden, it's not going that way anymore. Okay, once you get your marks on there, what I like to do is you could use a fan brush, or I like to take one of these Viva paper towels and just sort of soften those marks, and it actually sort of creates like a tapestry, which I love. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you use paper towel to paint. I use it a lot. It's really useful. And it does make a difference. I thought people were a little crazy when they told me that I needed these smooth paper towels, but it really in fact is a thing. They make the best marks, and it just, if I was using like this regular perforated paper towel, it really does kind of mess things up. So I'm taking my paper towel and I'm smudging in some of the yellow. When you do that, please remember you can't go back into it because you'll just drag in the background paint that's gotten on your paper towel. So definitely remember that one. So I'm just going to rip some more. Yeah, I just like to soften the edges. If you soften most of the edges, but then you keep whatever your eye wants to really, you want the viewer's eye to focus on, keep that edge tight. So if you look, I've almost softened everything, and then ask yourself which lines stand out the most, and you'll notice this one because I didn't soften it, and this one there. So it's a really fun thing to do. Gives the viewer's eyes places to look and rest on the painting. Now I got to go back and I'm going to lighten up that blue again, just a little bit more so that it pops a little more off the background. Get a little bit of this pinky color. I think that's just called rose or something like that. I can tell you. But get a few of these little edges back up there. Okay. Okie dokie. I think that is good. Now I'm going to go and add a little bit of that up here because I think it's worthwhile to add some more of that in there. Okay, now I want to find a green that will kind of suit this whole thing to add a little bit of a light green touch to it. And then I have to finish up the details of the pansies, and then that should be it for this little tutorial. So I'm going to mix a little bit of this. What is this green? I never know what I just grab whatever I can. Phthalo green. And a little bit of white, and I could put in a little stem. Keeping with the style of the painting, I'm not going to get into the details too much. You can see how that glows. So if you put in your first mark kind of loose and light, you see it's blending in with the background. And then if I go a little more with some thicker paint and I kind of add a highlight to it, there's now like already a dark side and a light side to it. So that's really handy. I try to do things, because I don't have a lot of time, I try to do things as kind of quick, good but quick, you know what I'm saying? So you want to make a mark you like, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I've learned I had to paint quick because I started painting while I was pregnant with my first daughter, so I didn't really have the privilege of just being able to spend time on paintings like some of my friends would spend months on paintings. And I just don't even like it. I want to move on to the next thing. So maybe that's bad, maybe it's good, I don't know, but you got to do what you got to do, you know, and if it works for you, painting on one painting for a few years, that's fine. I wouldn't be able to do it. Not at all. So I'm just going to put a few of these. You'll notice I cooled off a green for these marks back here. Very cool. You could put a bit of that down here as well, you know, because it's more of a, definitely it's, okay, before I get carried away, one thing you don't want to do is start adding cool all over your painting. So I'm going to stop right there and go back and warm up my green, because definitely that's a big mistake. You don't want to do that. You want to keep things warm, because it's very hard to warm up a cold painting. You can cool a painting off very quick, super quick. I really like that limey green color. I'm going to put in a few, there's a few stems that are just there. Just because it adds a little bit of intricacy to the mix that you would not normally see. More lines and more intricacy. Intricacy. It's the word of the day. Okay. All right. Now you can leave them like that, or we could add some of those little purple lines. Or I got some alizarin. It's kind of an alizarin. I'll add a few. Like that. And again, I'm not going to go and do exact. We all know how easy it is to start getting carried away. I'll let the imagination do the rest, is what I want to say. Okay, so again, I've put the marks down and I don't want them to be kind of on top, floating like that. So I want to go grab another one of those down to the last sheet. I want to grab a Viva towel and just sort of blend that a bit. There. That kind of settles that in a little bit. Okay, and I might as well finish off using this massive brush for the final detail. I'm just going to get a little bit of that purple and add a little cobalt, and I'm just going to add a little bit more of that into the center there. then I think the last thing I want to do is add another color into the background. I'm going to add some orange. A little bit of that purple, a little bit of white. I need to add a little something different. Okay, I think that's good. Now you have a little contrast. You have a little bit of those color combos like orange, purple, yellow, orange, purple, green. It all kind of works together. So I think that'll do it. I hope you enjoyed this little lesson, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram as well. And have a good day, everybody. Happy painting.